You talking about
Qualifying, like what the qualifying's at, percentages, and heat.
of events?
Yeah.
There's your order of
You're
events.
quick on that.
Yes, sir. All right, we're live on stream now. We can give it just a minute. They'll let people get in here.
All right.
We got 3.
I'll let you kind of, when you start it up, just kind of ease into it.
Pretty pumped for tonight. I think it's gonna go over pretty good, honestly. Yeah.
I hope so.
We're going to, but yeah, but we're not gonna do it tonight.
Just so, what's the percentages? Mason to laps, or whatever.
Um, qualifying's 20, heats are 40, dash is 10.
Qualifying, 20%.
Yep.
Heats, 40%.
Caution's on, heats. Sorry, caution's on and
So the
heats.
dash was
10%. Or I'm sorry, the dash should be 20%, 8 laps.
sweet. I'm ready when you are.
Alright, we're going to get started. So, point of today really is to talk about, point of this little error here is to talk about a podcast we got coming up, the Last Lap podcast, be hosted between myself and C. Bradshaw 19. He's here with us. We're going to have a little Q&A about it and talk about tonight's events and what we got upcoming as a group. So, Bradshaw, I'll turn it over to you, and we'll get started with this thing.
Yeah, like Clayton said, we got a podcast. We're gonna get going. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna have some big guests in there, just to talk about racing and the game and whatnot. I was watching the Dale Jr. podcast. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about NASCAR, talking about all kinds of stuff. And I thought, what better way to have a way for dirt track guys to get on here and talk about what they want to talk about, the guys want to get in here and talk about the game or, what's going on in real life, just, back and forth, nothing too serious, just a kind of hanging out type deal. And, I'm excited about it to get it going forward. And like I said, we got some guys that we're friends with, that we run with, that know some big names in dirt track racing. And, hope we can get those guys in there for some interviews and just something that the everyday, average guy can get in here and, on their phone, just, be at work and just turn it on and listen, So, I'm excited about it. So if you guys will join it.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll say too that I like that you hit on there is you mentioned talking about the game and other things. The podcast that we're starting, really our goal isn't so much to just stick to your typical cookie cutter motorsports podcast. We want to kind of be unique in that we want to combine gaming, racing, the fan experience. Just the constant chatter. We want to talk about feuds and racing. We want to talk about a little bit of everything, but really want to tie it to gaming as well. So you're gonna see a good mix of things that you typically wouldn't see in your typical motorsports podcast. And with that being said, we'll probably have a lot of interviews with gamers and racers alike, and probably compare the things between Xbox, iRacing, real life racing. A little bit of background about myself. I was a racer myself before all this gaming stuff came to be a thing. So having a little bit of background in actually racing and then coming to the game and playing it too, there are similarities and there are differences. So that's one thing that we really want to talk about and hit on moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. We just want to have a podcast where, just the average fan can come in and talk, whether it's about the game or, I feel like I mean, I'm turning 26 years old, so I can't really speak about, what happened in the 90s, but I feel like right now in dirt track racing, I mean, it's as competitive as it's ever been. And I feel like, we just saw last weekend with Chris Madden and Overton and all that stuff going on, and you see guys on Facebook kind of chit-chatting back and forth, but people don't know each other, but just, giving their opinion. Well, this podcast is somewhere you can come to, give your opinion, talk, discuss. It might get heated, it might not, it might have some, but this is definitely going to be, like I said, just for the average fan to come in and talk and, you know, just tell a little bit about themselves, or whoever it is, or if we have somebody big on the stream, that's a chance for us to grow our podcast. And if you have something you want to say about the game, or somebody in the game, or some a track you went to in real life and what you thought about it, you can come in there and talk about it. It's not really going to be a question answer and a quick 5-minute thing. It's going to be just getting there, laughing, cutting up, and really just having deep conversations, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yeah, me too. And one thing that I think is kind of important, and a lot of why we want to keep the gaming aspect in it is, a lot of people talk about like these big events and whether or not that they feel like they're right to host and whatnot. And we're not really here to get into that, but for me, a lot of why we put on these type of events is because for myself, I've done this type of thing. I've raced in real life, but a lot of people don't get the opportunity to race in real life for whatever reason, whether it be money or health problems or just other issues. And so being able to tie the gaming to real life racing in the same unique podcast is kind of a cool thing. Kind of gives them an opportunity to feel like one of those Saturday Night Warriors, So definitely like that we're going to hit on that. I think that's something that you'll see us take advantage of. And just to kind of make those guys feel like they're a part of the same thing that your Brandon Overtons and your Jonathan Davenports and your Tyler Herbs are a part of. And throughout the duration of the podcast, we'll debate. We'll debate about guys that race in the game. We'll debate about leagues. We'll debate about everything. And we'll debate about your Saturday night racers as well, your Lucas guys, your NASCAR, your what have you. It's going to be a broad scope of things, and that's something that I really look forward to and think is going to be a real cool thing to see. So
for sure. Now I'm just going to hit you with some quick questions, so the guys that are viewing and the guys in the league and whatever can maybe get a better grip on things. What's your expectations for the next 2 days?
So, tonight we've got the start of the St. Patty's Day Scramble. Got about 80 drivers in it, which is down a bit from our last one. Kind of expected that, though, with racing season getting started and a lot of big events going on. But nonetheless, got a lot of cars. Jacobs County is one of those tracks that it hosts some of the best racing in the game. It's good and tight and close racing, and so you could see a lot of good battles throughout the weekend. With that being said, I expect door-to-door racing. I'm sure there'll be moments where there'll be some tempers, and I'm sure there'll be some moments where guys are patting each other on the back after the fact. All in all, I'm kind of interested to see who wins the thing. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of talk, but for this being our second major event, I think it's going to go really well, honestly.
Awesome. Since you're not running in this event, I feel like you're more likely to maybe give an answer. Who is your wild card in this group to watch out for out of everybody that signed up?
Oh, man. Honestly, if I've got to say who I think is probably a favorite to win, it's probably got to be Renat 99. Coming off the last event with a win at Charlotte and just running with the guy there, I think he's going to be one to watch. Going to be a tough one to beat, but I also think, you've got a lot of tough guys there, man. To be honest with you, I was running with him earlier, and it just goes to show that you can't doubt the people in the race. Core 0817. I ran with him, and he was really fast. Mobstar. I think truthfully, if I had to say a person that I think could potentially be a sleeper and could really impress people, it's got to be Mobstar 57. 14-year-old kid. Real young, but definitely talented behind the wheel or controller, whichever he's on. I think that he very well could win the thing. So if I had to say a name and just throw a name out there, I got to say it's got to be Mobstar.
for sure. He was definitely pretty impressive in the Charlotte race too. Um, how do you build off the success of the Heartbreaker? You know, you set the bar real high with the Heartbreaker, and now you're coming into a month later. How do you build off of that?
Yeah, so the Heartbreaker was one of those events that it's kind of a dream event. We talked about doing it and never could really pull the trigger because we were convinced that if we were going to do it, it was going to be the biggest and the best. We weren't going to settle for any less. And so, you know, to swing the Heartbreaker and it go over as good as it did, after the event, you had a lot of guys in lobbies talking about the event and how cool it was. And it was kind of cool. A lot of guys didn't even know that we were hosting that. So we get in the lobby and just hear them chit-chatting about the event and asking if we knew about it. It's like, yeah, we're actually the ones who put it on. So really cool to build momentum from that to continue it. The whole idea is to pick another racy track, which I think we've done in Jacobs County, and just fill the thing up. We've incorporated some dealings with some other leagues. The Wicked Tour is one that we've kind of pitched in a little bit with them and invested in that league. They've got a lot of tough drivers, so I think just getting their guys in and getting other series' guys in. I know Poor Boys Racing has got a lot of guys in the event. Beer Hill Gangs guys, those are going to be fun to run with. I mean, we've got guys from 10 man's lobbies. I mean, just incorporating your typical leagues into this thing, I think helps keep some traction and keep momentum, and then spreading
You're
the
pulling
stream.
talent. You're kind of pulling talent from every league and every group, getting different blood in there. Um,
Absolutely.
did you ever see yourself grow in the tournaments or even starting the tournaments when you started this game? Was that ever even on your mind?
I'd be lying if I said it was. When I first got into the game, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't much of a gamer myself. I didn't play a whole lot of games, so um, getting into it, it was like, well, we'll just play a little bit and see what happens. I was playing with my son some, and then I got over to the online world and saw that there was some interest in it, and then just got to talking with some guys, and they said, it'd be really cool to do this, and then the next thing I know, we're putting on a tournament. But no, when I first started, I truthfully didn't even plan to play the game much more than about a week or two, to be honest. And now I've got probably 2 years in it. It feels like I've
Yeah.
played nonstop. So
I
yeah,
think
if that's your answer,
you're
for
coming up
sure.
on 2,000 races, I'm pretty sure.
2,000 races,
Yeah.
2,000 wins maybe. Yeah, I'm looking at about 4,700 races, I think. So definitely
Golly.
addicted. I've been on the game a lot for sure.
I was half right there for sure. Um,
Yeah.
so overall, what's your goal and expectations for not only the tournament tonight and tomorrow night, tournaments going forward in the podcast? Like, what's your overall expectations of it?
Well, I'm hoping that the tournament obviously this weekend goes well. That's kind of at the four side of things, but moving forward from that, I want to see if maybe we can gain some traction moving into the next one. We've already planned our next big event, and I'm hoping that as soon as this is over, we kind of have a rush of people looking to sign up for the next event. And to
Right.
help with that, we're doing some early bird registration stuff. Guys will get a discounted rate if they sign up early for the next event. So that's going to be a big thing. And then with the podcast, I just kind of want to use the podcast as a tool to help grow our events, but at the same time, I want to use it as kind of our release from the thing at the same time. I want to use it as our proverbial BS session to get away from the hustle and bustle of tournaments at times too. So it's going to be both.
Well, I think one of the things that podcast is really going to help out with too is like it's going to be a build up and it's going to be a come down. Like we're going to be able to talk about this podcast, building up to a tournament, or like I said, even if it's a real life race, we're going to be able to build up to these races. Afterward, we can go back to the podcast and talk about things maybe we were right on, wrong on, and just overall discuss. So I think it's going to be a thing that I'm hoping people will join in on before the races happen, and getting in and just talk and hear what we have to say, and us hear what they have to say, and then afterwards we can hear the positive and negatives of what people think. And So I think it's going to be a good podcast is going to be a good thing for the Twitch and the tournaments and just the overall racing situation that we're trying to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hope is, that we get pretty good engagement from the gaming community and just standard community alike to do a couple things. Number one, to help grow the gaming community, but also if we get good engagement from our guys that run these events and are part of these events, then that'll help us better the events in the future. Eventually we would like to get to a point to where there's zero complaints about these events, and across the board, everyone on the game says these guys are the ones. They're professional, they know what they're doing, and they host the best in the business. So that's our hope long term, and I think the podcast is really going to help to develop that and create that. So
For sure. All right, last question. What's your message to the guys that are running tonight in this tournament, and maybe guys that are thinking about signing up for future tournaments?
yeah, so for the guys that are running tonight, if I had any tip of advice, it's just take it for what it is. It's a $25 tournament, so I get that there's some money at stake, but at the end of the day, it's all about doing more on the game than just getting on here and running some races. So my hope for them is that they embrace the moment, that they make the best of it. Whether they have good or bad luck. I hope that they form bonds with guys that they're racing with, and hopefully it'll even help merge the drama between leagues and whatnot, and kind of brings the gaming community even closer together. Um, you know, the only advice that I have for them is just like I said, just take it in stride, enjoy the moment. When I ran the last one, it was stressful, but I really enjoyed getting to run with the group of guys that I did. It's so hard to find such a tight knit, fast group that's clean and competitive, and so this is their opportunity. I hope they take full advantage of that.
To come in and, like I said, just talk about racing. There's a lot of times guys that go to the track or they get on this game, they talk between two or three guys, but they don't really feel like their voice is being heard. They want to talk about something and they can't get it out there. Well, this is your opportunity to do that. So I don't the research that I've done, I don't feel like there is a podcast or really just anything that guys can go to and just talk about dirt track racing. That's just not, unless you're on the internet talking on Facebook or going back and forth with somebody. You don't really have that anymore. And the Dale Jr. podcast was honestly the thing that kind of lit the light bulb in my head to get this thing going, was listening to him, talk, just bringing guys on, bringing racers on, and taking calls from people. And they were strictly talking about NASCAR, and what NASCAR's doing. And I like NASCAR, but I'm a dirt guy. I've always been a dirt guy. My dad's raced for over 20 years. My uncle's built cars. Dirt's all I've ever known. So I feel like this podcast is the opportunity for us to have our own little thing, and we talk about dirt track racing, and same thing with this game. What's going on in the game, and just a way for guys to come hang out, let loose. It ain't gonna be an uptight thing. So everybody listening, just stay with us here for the next week or two. I know me and Clayton are working on some stuff to get going, try to get some guests in that are I think some guests that some guys are gonna want to hear from. So just stay tight, and thanks for everything.
Absolutely, yeah, I appreciate it. You guys stay tuned and keep an eye out for updates for the Last Lap podcast.